The Warriors find themselves with a losing record at 10-12, 22 games into the season. With what seemed to be a great start to the season, winning 6 of their first 8 games, 5 of them being on the road, the team has gone 4-10 ever since. Many of these losses have revolved around 4 major themes, which have been the inability to close out games, the poor play of the top players, the issue of too many turnovers, and poor coaching. Over the stretch of the last 14 games, the Warriors have lost some heartbreakers, such as losing in overtime on November 18th versus the Thunder, when Chet Holmgren forced overtime off of his fadeaway 3. Other examples include the Warriors blowing 2 20-plus point leads in the same week against the Kings, and then one against the Clippers, in which Paul George hit a step-back 3 to win the game. Lastly, on Friday night, as it looked like the Warriors were about to win the game off of a spectacular bench effort against the Thunder, Draymond fouled Chet Holmgren on a 3-point attempt, which sent the game into overtime where the Warriors lost. With these games, the team's inability to close out games due to silly mistakes has been hard to watch. To make things worse, it hasn't been just the losses that have been worrisome, but the 4 Warriors wins in that stretch have also been a struggle, as their 4 wins came down to the wire against teams with a .500 record or below, that being the Spurs, Clippers, Rockets, and Blazers. After such a rough stretch of basketball games, the Warriors really have to take a close look at themselves in the mirror. Are they even contenders? In this video, I'm going to be diving more into depth about the Warriors' problems, provide possible solutions to the Warriors' struggles, and then decide if the Warriors have what it takes to turn their season around. Let's get into it. I think the most evident issue over this span of games has been the coaching. I think Steve Kerr has put up a disaster class of coaching this entire season. His most confusing performance had to be in the in-season tournament game versus the Kings on November 28th. The Warriors held a 17-point lead heading into the third quarter, and the Kings began going on a run in the early fourth quarter. Fortunately, Moses Moody caught fire on the perimeter, going 4 of 4 from the field and hitting back-to-back clutch threes, keeping the Warriors' lead afloat. Not to mention he would have gone 6 for 6 if it weren't for Draymond and Klay offensive fouls. After hitting those 2 clutch threes, Steve Kerr benched Moody and he didn't play for the rest of the game. Just a completely mind-boggling decision to make, taking out a guy who's on fire, especially in a game that's that close. Steve Kerr wasn't done either. Another horrible decision he made was challenging an offensive foul by Curry with 3 minutes left in the game. Looking at the replay, it was clear that the call wouldn't be overturned, but for some reason, with only 1 timeout remaining, Kerr decided to challenge the call. The Warriors ended up losing the challenge and their last timeout with it, which would have been really helpful to advance the ball in the last play of the game and drop a good play, rather than Curry having to rush the ball all the way from the other side of the court to throw up a tough shot. Another poor coaching example was when the Warriors played the Blazers on December 6th. Kerr decided to not play Kuminga for the entire first half, which is once again confusing, mainly because the Blazers were a young, energetic team, so it would make sense to try to match that energy by playing a fast and athletic player like Kuminga. It wasn't until more than halfway through the third quarter where Kerr sensed the Warriors needed more energy on the court, so he finally gave Kuminga a chance. In the 17 minutes Kuminga played in, he scored 13 points and had a plus-minus of plus 13, fueling the Warriors' comeback to a win. Why was Kuminga out of the rotation to begin with? The last example of poor coaching, and this ties in with the poor play of the top players, has been Steve Kerr's overextended patience of playing Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins. Look, I don't need to go crazy into the numbers. Everyone who watches the Warriors knows how poorly Klay and Andrew Wiggins have been playing. For Klay, his struggles such as his poor shot selection has absolutely hurt the team. There have been too many cases, especially in close games, where Klay attempts to play hero ball and throws up contested 3-pointers that completely kill any momentum the Warriors have. The Warriors have to do a better job of holding him accountable. I understand that he's one of the greatest shooters of all time and is vital to the Warriors dynasty, but how little awareness can you have to not realize that your own play has hurt the team badly? Why do Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga have such a short leash when it comes to making mistakes, but when Klay makes poor decisions, there aren't any consequences? I think this is 100% on Steve Kerr. It is his job to talk to Klay about these things. I'll admit, Klay has been playing better as of lately, but he's still wildly inconsistent. And for Wiggins, he has been terrible to start off the season. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for the first 10 games, primarily because it's normal for some players to start off the season in a slump, but it's already game 22 and he has shown very little improvement since then. He's missing the easy post-up jump hook that worked for him in years prior, and he's also continued his poor free throw shooting, which is at 61% just like last year. His 3-point shot has also completely disappeared. Most of the time when watching him, Wiggins looks like his mind is elsewhere. Perhaps that may have something to do with his personal situation from last year, but if he's still being affected by his own personal matters, is he even in the right mindset to be playing? To be fair, I will give him credit for his effort though. He has still shown up defensively and he has given a lot of effort on the boards. With that being said, both Klay and Wiggins have been major disappointments so far this season. Next, the turnover issue is once again a problem. This has always been an issue as far as I remember, but it seems like it's gotten worse. The Warriors hope to fix this issue by adding Chris Paul to the team, but even that hasn't seemed to resolve the issue. The Warriors averaged the 4th most turnovers by a team in the NBA at 16 per game. In Friday's game versus the Thunder, the Warriors had a league season high of 29 turnovers. Some of these turnovers are a mixture of pure carelessness and bad decision making. I know the Warriors system is based on passing the ball and passing up good shots for great shots, but many of their passes are them trying to force the ball in traffic and through the air, which have not worked well at all. There's not really any easy way to solve this issue other than to protect the ball and only pass if a player is open. I know this may seem like really basic advice, but I guess that just shows how bad this issue has gotten. Now that we have gone over the struggles of the Warriors season, the Warriors have a few options to make. The first option, and probably the one that is most likely going to happen, is to continue with the same lineups and hope that Klay and Wiggins eventually get their rhythm back, and they make a run during the regular season that puts them in a good place to contend in the playoffs. The second option, although not much different, is to make adjustments to the starting lineup. For me, I'm a huge advocate of possibly benching Klay or Wiggins, and in turn starting either Moody or Kuminga. I feel like Moody and Kuminga deserve more minutes more than ever now, and starting one of them would be a breath of fresh air to the team. If the Warriors really want to try something new and completely embrace their style of play as a small ball perimeter shooting team, I wouldn't be mad if they tried a Steph, Moody, Kuminga, Klay, and Draymond small ball lineup. This lineup hasn't logged 1 minute this season. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that all I'm asking from Steve Kerr is to start experimenting with different lineups this season. It is still quite early into the season, which means now is the time to see how different lineups work and which ones don't. Staying stagnant and waiting for things to get better rather than being proactive has been tiresome. Change all starts with Steve Kerr. Lastly, the last option, the option that seems far-fetched but still has a possibility to happen, is to make a trade. If the Warriors were to make a trade, most likely for a star, their biggest assets include Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, and Brandon Podziemski. The problem with this option is that if the Warriors were to make a trade, they would probably have to include all these players, which means they're basically throwing away their future in order to make a win-now move. While I think that could be okay, this places a ton of pressure on the Warriors to win even more. If the Warriors fail to win now, then they are really setting themselves up for an extremely long rebuild once Curry retires, because they wouldn't have a solid young core to build off of. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this option because this is a last resort kind of option that will only happen if things get really bad. To conclude, no matter what option the Warriors take, I don't necessarily see an ideal outcome. I do think there's no doubt the Warriors can turn around their season. They proved it over and over again the past few years. But the main problem with sticking with the team as it is right now is that we have to ask ourselves if it's even worth it. The Warriors are most likely going to barely scrape into the playoffs just like last year, and will end up having to play a hard first-round matchup just to be outmatched against a team like the Nuggets and Lakers in the second round. Curry is going to have to be asked once again to carry the team in the first round, and then his body is going to be exhausted once the second round hits, and the inability for the supporting cast to carry some of the weight will lead to the Warriors' downfall. The lack of a clear-cut second option is what gives me little confidence to the Warriors' success. Today's NBA relies heavily on star power, with contenders having at least 2 stars on their team. The Warriors don't really have that. It's more like Curry and then everyone else. What makes this year different from the championship year in 2022 was that Wiggins was an all-star starter that season and was a reliable second option. In addition, the Warriors had a rather favorable playoff run, playing an injured Nuggets team in the first round, an inexperienced Memphis team in the second round, and then completely outmatched the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, and then won the finals off of an all-time great performance by Steph Curry. Last season, it took an all-time great performance by Steph Curry just to get past the first round. That's why his legs were dead versus the Lakers. It doesn't get any easier this year as the NBA is even more competitive. The Warriors will have to beat teams like the Kings, Clippers, Suns, Nuggets, Lakers, Bucks, and Celtics within their run. I just don't see that happening. At least if the Warriors took option 2, they can develop their young core. And who knows, maybe the Warriors can find a second star in either Moody, Kuminga, or Podziemski. Anyways, these next 2 months of December and January are really going to reveal if this team is a contender or not. With 16 of their next 24 games at home within that stretch, this is the Warriors' best opportunity to make a strong regular season run. Hopefully, within that stretch, the Warriors will have a fully healthy squad with GP2 and CP3 fully healthy. If the Warriors find themselves at a level of dissatisfaction heading into February, the trade deadline is right around the corner for them to review their options. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, even if it's more of a rant video than anything. Let me know your comments about the Warriors situation, and if you agree or disagree with anything I said in my video in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and go Warriors!